Most people think retirement is freedom, a finish line, a moment where life finally slows down. But what if that idea is only half true? Because for many Black retirees in the United States, retirement doesn't feel like freedom. It feels like something quieter, almost invisible at first, until one day it isn't. Not in a crisis, not in a dramatic collapse, but in something ordinary. A grocery receipt that looks slightly different than last month. A prescription refill you didn't expect to think twice about. A rent notice that feels less negotiable than it used to. And that's when it happens. Not panic, not chaos, just realization. That life didn't slow down when work ended. It simply changed the way it takes from you. And over time, something subtle begins to form. You stop asking, "Am I free?" and start asking, "How long can I keep this going?" But there is another path people begin to take. Not escape, not fantasy, something more unsettling than that. Recalculation. They start asking a question most people avoid. What if retirement isn't about stopping work, but about changing where survival feels possible? And that question is quietly reshaping lives across the world. Not for luxury, not for status, but for something far more basic. Breathing rooms. But here's where things get complicated. Because the internet doesn't show life, it shows edits of life. So what looks like freedom online can feel completely different when you're actually living inside it. This isn't a dream list. It's a reality check. 10 countries, 10 versions of retirement, and one question underneath it all. Where can you actually live without constantly negotiating your right to exist? Let's begin. Number 10, Ghana, when home doesn't recognize you back. For many in the diaspora, Ghana begins as an emotion, not a destination. A return imagined long before it is experienced. One retiree described landing in Accra after decades abroad. He expected familiarity, something immediate, something that felt like recognition. But what he felt instead was quieter. Displacement. Not because Ghana was unfamiliar, but because it had continued living without him. That is the first shock most people don't talk about. You don't return to a memory. You arrive in a living country that never paused for you. At first, everything feels powerful. The rhythm of conversation, the energy in the streets, the sense of cultural closeness you can feel in your chest. For a moment, something inside you settles, like exhaling after holding your breath for years. But then daily life begins, and emotion meets structure. Traffic that doesn't follow expected logic. Systems that require learning, not assumption. Number 9, Belize, the country you don't realize is multiple countries. Belize looks simple from far away. English speaking, Caribbean pace, relaxed atmosphere. But the first mistake retirees make is thinking Belize is one experience. It isn't. Its location deciding your entire life. One retiree moves near the coast, expecting calm mornings. Instead, he discovers that life changes dramatically just a few streets away. Another moves inland for affordability and realizes access to services quietly reshapes everything. That is the hidden truth. Number 8, Dominican Republic, where life stops waiting for you. The Dominican Republic doesn't slow down for retirement. It continues and pulls you into it. Music isn't background here. It is structure. Conversation is not occasional. It is constant. And for some retirees, something unexpected happens. They feel socially visible again. One retiree described sitting outside a cafe in Santo Domingo. A stranger greeted him like he belonged there. Not special, not foreign, just present. And that feeling changes something internal. Because visibility is something many people don't realize they lost. Number 7, Philippines. When silence becomes noticeable, the Philippines removes friction from life. English helps. Systems are navigable. Costs are manageable. At first, it feels like relief. But relief has a side effect people don't expect. Silence. Not external. Internal. One retiree described the first month. Nothing was wrong, but nothing was pulling me either. And that is the hidden transition. When stress disappears too quickly, identity takes time to catch up. And in that space, people either rebuild themselves or feel unanchored. Number 6, Thailand. When ease exposes the past, Thailand doesn't argue with your expectations. It quietly breaks them. You expect limitation. You find structure. You expect struggle. You find balance. But the real shift isn't external. It's psychological. Because when daily life becomes easier to manage, you start noticing what you used to normalize. Stress that wasn't necessary. Pressure that wasn't unavoidable. Number 5, Portugal. When nothing feels like something is missing, Portugal doesn't rush you. It removes urgency. But that creates a strange psychological gap. Because when urgency disappears, your mind assumes something must be wrong. One retiree said, "I kept waiting for something to go wrong until I realized nothing was supposed to." Portugal doesn't add excitement. It removes pressure. And that difference takes time to understand. Days feel slower here. Not empty, just unhurried. Number 4, Colombia. A life that requires presence. Colombia doesn't allow autopilot living. It requires attention. Because your experience changes based on awareness. Neighborhood matters. Timing matters. Awareness matters. And in that structure, something unexpected happens. People become engaged again. Not protected. Not isolated. Engaged. One retiree described it simply. "I stopped watching life from a distance." But engagement comes with responsibility. Number 3, Costa Rica. When calm feels suspicious, Costa Rica creates a strange psychological reaction. Nothing goes wrong. Not often. Not consistently. And at first, that feels suspicious. Because the nervous system expects tension somewhere. But it never arrives. No chaos. No constant instability. No emergency feeling hiding behind daily life. And eventually, something shifts. Peace stops feeling empty and starts feeling normal. And this is where the story begins to change direction. Because up until now, we've looked at lifestyle. But what happens when the real pressure isn't emotional, but financial? We move into the countries where money itself starts behaving differently, where currency, healthcare, and structure begin to reshape retirement in ways most people never expect, and where some retirees discover something surprising. Number 2, Ecuador. When spending stops feeling like fear, Ecuador removes something most retirees never talk about directly, but feel every single day: uncertainty. Because here, the US dollar is the standard currency. No conversion anxiety. No exchange rate tracking. No mental calculation before every purchase. And that sounds small, until you realize how much mental space it used to take. In places like Cuenca, life feels structured but calm. Walkable streets, predictable costs, a slower rhythm that doesn't demand constant adjustment. And slowly, something shifts. Spending stops feeling like loss and starts feeling like use. Number 1, Panama. Designed around retirement itself, Panama is different from every country on this list. Not because it is perfect, but because it is intentional. The pensionado system doesn't just allow retirement, it organizes it. Healthcare access, discount systems, residency structure, infrastructure built with retirees in mind. But the real reason Panama stands at the top isn't financial, it's psychological. It removes friction from everyday existence, so life stops feeling managed and starts feeling lived. Retirement was never just about stopping work. It was about what replaces it. Because in the wrong environment, even stability feels like pressure. But in the right environment, even limitation can feel like relief. And over time, something deeper begins to change. Not just your expenses, not just your location, but your internal rhythm. You stop surviving your surroundings and start existing inside them. So maybe the real question was never, where can you retire? But instead, where can you finally stop adapting to survive your environment?